Well, one might say, is suffering important in Buddhism? Of course, suffering is important in that suffering is the visible evidence of the disorder in our thinking and about the world and a way of experiencing the world and relating to the world and others. Suffering only comes about because of this profound mistake in our thinking, this profound habitual mistake to emphasize oneself at the expense of others, and to kind of create this fantasy about oneself as some kind of supreme being around which the rest of the world originates. So that set that we have against the world, so to speak, is the ground of hatred. It's the ground of desire, greed, and all the other poisonous, disturbing emotions. But in particular, we could focus on how it's the ground of aversion or hatred, because once I split myself off from the world to try and maintain this fortress I against the world, then a lot of the world becomes an enemy. A lot of the world becomes, I see as a threat to myself, because really others don't buy one's estimation of my estimation of myself as the king, as the supreme being, because they're all very busy with their estimations of themselves as the supreme center of the universe. So we're clashing. We clash with other beings. Most important, I clash with other beings because of this egotism. I have aversion, a fear and an aggression to many. And that makes me suffer. That makes me suffer because I don't only just feel that, but act according to that feeling and that perception. And I keep getting beaten up by the universe because of that. By others, by the outcome of situations, by life itself, its changes, and so on. I keep getting beaten up. So if one asks, well, where do the hells come from? This is it. Then they start there in one's disturbing emotions. Now let's kind of think a little bit more about that. We Buddhists, we say that the mind is, in its own nature, it's formless. It doesn't arise from material phenomena. It cannot, because mind is endowed with sentience and at the same time is formless. It's capable of reflecting all phenomena whatsoever. So as that's the case, then not only does this mind not end, although it's arising in different thoughts and emotions from moment to moment, but this process or this sequence I call mind doesn't have any ending, because nothing can bring it to an end. Mind, the mind of one moment is the principal cause of the mind of the next. And similarly, if I go backwards, I don't find any point where the mind began. There's no point where mind suddenly arose from nothing, because nothing arises from nothing, and neither did mind arise from physical causes. Of course, the physical causes of my mother and father's basic elements provides a setting, like an environment for the mind to inhabit from the beginning of this life, but that's all. So, in short, the mind is a beginningless, formless, aware continuum. And as that's the case, I shouldn't think that this kind of experience that I'm having now, shaped by these kind of conditions, the conditions of physicality, the conditions of human culture, are the only setting my mind can inhabit and with which it can interact. Besides which, even now, while my mind is in this so-called physical setting, the core of the experience that one has is essentially mind. It's mind that is giving rise to these appearances. So as that's the case, then mind is capable of giving rise to just any kind of appearances, depending on how it's shaped by my imprints. Now, if we think about it, we do actually carry, as I was hinting, the seeds of hell around with us even now. Because hell is finally nothing more than the unleashing of the aversion and the negativity in one's habits of hatred, but unleashing them as if they're unbound by this kind of setting. Sounds funny. What I'm trying to say is that right now, what prevents my anger from escalating into full-blown experience of hell is that I'm reminded by my culture, by others around me speaking the shared language, I'm reminded by the physical appearances common to the human life that I'm human. Finally, I touch base with that, and it kind of grounds me in a kind of what passes at least for a semblance of human sanity. I don't blow up entirely into the hell experience, but it's there, it's potential. And indeed, some tragic people do become absorbed fully into those projections of hatred, even while still biologically, physically becoming, biologically being human. They do get absorbed into those projections of hatred. Such people are, of course, tragically mentally ill, as we would say. They're terrible psychosis. But, again, backing up, I'll think a little bit more deeply. If when I pass away, this life ends through the kind of physical setting of the body, the nervous system and so on, reaching its kind of disintegrating state, the mind continues because it's not created by those things, but it doesn't now have that setting. Analogously to how when I go to sleep at night, my mind no longer has the kind of physical reference of the external world. So its dream states or nightmare states seem totally real to it. But when my physical body ends, then it will be like this, but multiplied in intensity. So if I die and the imprints that come to the fore at that time are those of extreme aggression in which I've seen the world as enemy, I've seen others as enemy, I've enacted that and so on, then of course the projections that arise will be those arising from that, will be those derived from that. And that will be hell. In the Buddhist, in our scriptures, hell is depicted in various ways. The 8 hot hells, the 8 cold hells, the 4 or 6 neighboring hells, the occasional hells, but all of them, because these are, of course, literary descriptions of hallucinatory states. Hallucinatory in the sense, post-mortem hallucination states. But to depict any kind of mental state, you need to bring imagery from common life, from this world, so to speak. So are there really 8 hot hells? No, there's probably countless. Are there really only 8 cold hells? No. But look at the commonality expressed in that. The tortures and so on, there are hallucinations in which your aversion and aggression is turning back on yourself. Because whereas in the ordinary world, your projection of hatred and so on runs up against the kind of seeming solidity of everyday life, you return to that, your biology and so on. Now you don't, just as you don't in dreams. But this dream or this nightmare, it goes on even longer until the imprint is totally exhausted. So can we go to hell? Yeah, we could go to hell because we've got it in the seed of it in us now. Are we sent there as a punishment? No, not unless you consider this punishing yourself. And in a sense it is, of course. Because it's merely the outcome of thoughts, feelings, and actions you've cultivated. But nobody sends us there, neither God nor devil. Now, you might have visions of gods and devils in hell, but they're your own projections. That's all, that's all there is to it. As Shantideva rhetorically asked the question in Bodhisattva, who made these demonic men and women that I see in hell? And the answer is my own mind. My own mind. Its aggression makes them. They're not external beings. So, yeah, is hell real? It's as real as any other realm in samsara. You might well ask me, are the heavens that one can go to as the ripening of virtuous actions, are they real? And the answer is, well, real in the sense that they're the projection of imprints within your mind that have come to the fore through virtuous practice in previous lives. You will then have these temporary experiences of bliss and expanded consciousness and the like. But as we realized in the 60s, all expanded consciousnesses come to an end, whether it's after 8 hours or 8,000 billion years in the heavens. And so it is with the bad trips too, with the hells. They all come to an end eventually when the seed of them, which is the disturbing emotions, when that particular disturbing emotion is fully ripened and exhausted. So we're carrying the heavens and the hells with us even now. Where are they? They're in our mind. Not in the sense like, oh, they're merely psychological. Well, they're merely psychological. You can be allowed to say that from a Buddhist point of view, as long as you realize everything is merely psychological, everything is merely mind, the universe itself included. So what is the purpose of hearing the teachings of hells? Well, what is the purpose of hearing? If you're not careful with your activity, you're going to cause some real damage to yourself and others. That's just a friendly thing. Your parent or good friend will say that to you. So similarly, when we hear the teachings of hells, it's like, in a way, we should understand, really, I should check. Is my mind full of aggression? Am I cultivating hatred? Or am I cultivating gentleness and love? If I'm cultivating hatred, then I'm kind of creating the seed of hell. If I stop cultivating that seed, hell will disappear. So it's like that. So enjoy all the pictures and descriptions of hell. You've all been there countless times. We've all been to the heavens countless times. But the point is to stop going there.